Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gut Punch Satan. Today we're going to talk about how to argue. Yay! Okay, I'm Chaplain Gina, and if you watched last episode, you know we talked about being nice to our enemies, about not having to agree with someone in order to want them to be allowed to keep breathing oxygen. So today we're going to talk about, well, what do you do then? What do you do when someone wants to argue with you? When they're like in your face and it's not on a video. You're not just hearing them rant on a video. They're here and they're telling you how they feel and you don't like it. How do you argue? Well, the answer is simple. You don't. Don't argue. Don't argue. But it is true that sometimes you come across people who don't feel that way and they are in your face. That seems to be, a common occurrence these days. Anyhow, so how do you argue? You don't. From what I've seen, there are generally 4 ways that people want to respond to an argument. Now, obviously, there's going to be more, but these are the 4 that I want to focus on today. The first thought is retaliate, and I get that. Retaliation is sometimes that first instinct to just, oh yeah? Here's the thing. If you retaliate to someone who is already unhinged, now you're part of the problem. Because they're already here. If you meet them here, now they have to go here. It's not going to end. It's going to keep going higher and higher and higher until one of you is on YouTube being labeled a Karen. That's a phenomenon. The other thing people want to do is defend, and sometimes you feel like that as a Christian, but I'm defending my faith, or I'm defending myself, or I'm defending them in a way because it's you don't want them to be hurting, so you're trying to tell them, hey, I'm defending you, I'm defending your right, but whatever. It's falling on deaf ears. They're not going to hear you. They're not going to hear you, and that kind of goes along with the third way, which is instruct. They're not hearing you. Because here's the thing, if someone is to the point where they are fully engaged and expressing their point of view in a very loud, aggressive way, anything you say is going to fall on deaf ears. You are not talking to them. You are talking to their pain or their fear. I've said before that all negative emotions stem from fear. We're afraid of something, afraid of not being seen, afraid of not being heard, afraid of being overshadowed, afraid of being thought of one way or another. It's fear. So you're just talking to their fear. It's like trying to argue with a drunk person. You're not getting through. You're talking to the alcohol. Stop talking to the alcohol. Stop talking to the fear. Because, again, you're becoming part of the problem. And, of course, another way that people like to come back at someone who's arguing in that way is to mock them. And to that I say, seriously? If that's your reaction, is to mock them, then I want you to ask yourself how you think you're any different than they are. But think about it. Every one of us at some point in our life has been to the point where we're teeth and claws, I mean, I get that way when I see other people being wronged. I've made that clear now. I get so furious when I see the enemy working in somebody's life, but sometimes they don't realize it's the enemy that I'm mad at. So think about that. Like we talked about a few episodes ago. Look at the plank in your own eye before pointing out the speck of dust in theirs. and follow Jesus's example. I think the examples of Jesus refusing to argue are some of his classiest moves. Seriously, I'm not even close to kidding. When he was arrested and he was being questioned, some of their questions he didn't even answer. He didn't even answer them. Not in a rude way. I mean, he respected them as government officials, but he knew they weren't going to listen anyways. They had already made up their minds. And when you're talking to someone who's flailing and freaking out and arguing, they've already made up their minds. They don't want to hear your point of view. They don't want to be taught a different way. They don't want it. And they certainly don't want to be mocked. Nobody wants to be mocked. Do unto others. Nobody likes to be mocked. But follow Jesus' example. He followed what we read about in the book of James. He was quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. He got frustrated sometimes, but slow to anger. Maybe the person ranting just needs someone to let them get it all out. And I'm not talking about out on the street, strangers. In those situations, you probably just want to walk away. I'm talking about when it's people that you love. Because like I said, we're all guilty of this sometimes. Just listen. Just listen. Don't try to teach them and instruct them. Maybe they just need to vent. Maybe they just need to get it off their chest. Listen. And then, if you find a place where you feel like it might be appropriate to try to help them once they've gotten it all out, then help them. But if not, maybe that's not the time. Maybe that conversation is just not going to be the time. Let people have their emotions. You want to have your emotions, and unless they're harming themselves or about to harm someone else, try to be part of the solution. There's plenty of problem out there already. We don't need to contribute to that. So, yeah, that's today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.